Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Grizz Griswold of FINOS. Hope you're doing well. All right, this is part 2. We're going to be talking about OSFF Toronto that's coming up on April 14th. And last week I did a podcast that was about 20 minutes, and it talked about all the talks that are on track 1 for OSFF Toronto, and that track is FINOS ecosystem and tech stack. But today I'm going to try to do a little bit quicker for you and talk about the talks that are on the other track. This track is really centered around AI. Not that just about everything isn't centered around AI, but this is open source AI within finance. And also we have hot topics as well. So if you haven't marked your calendar for April 14th in Toronto for OSFF and signed up, please go ahead and do that now. But I'm going to give you the sneak preview, and let's go ahead and start going into it. All right. There is kind of one thing before we get started that I want to make sure that that our listeners and then our attendees really understand is this would not have been possible back in 2017 when we started this conference in New York, and then even when we went to London the next year. But the majority of our speakers are actually coming from, they are engineer directors, they're global heads, they're principal architects from RBC, TD Bank, Citi, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan Chase. Banks are now speaking at conferences, and this is one of the only conferences actually that we've heard that a lot of developers get the chance to go to from these banks because one, first of all, listen, our members get to go free. And so you're going to, if you come to this conference, you're going to see a lot of our member bank practitioners at this conference. That's why it's also a great conference to sponsor, by the way, but that's a whole other thing. But not only that, but again, like I said, when we started this in 2017, I'm trying to think back, we had maybe a couple of keynote speakers that used to speak at banks, but now like half of the speakers well, just about half of the speakers that are speaking in Toronto are from banks. Anyway, but we're going to go through this and we're going to talk about it. But we're going to start with not a bank, but a really great vendor member. And I say that just because I've known people at this particular company since I started in open source, 15 years ago. And they really helped us when I was working on another conference get that conference off the ground in Raleigh, North Carolina. So you may know who I'm talking about, and that's Red Hat. Red Hat actually is the reason why we're going to Toronto. They have a great customer base there. They wanted to talk to us about like how do you know about the Toronto market? And we really didn't. We had two member banks that were based out of Canada, RBC and BMO, but we hadn't really explored the idea. And then the more and more that we talked with our friends at Red Hat, then the more and more it became apparent that like we really need to do this there as well. So they asked us to do this conference there in Toronto, and now here we are. We're 6 weeks away as I'm recording this right now. So let's first talk about Red Hat. Eric Rosenbaum, he's going to be kicking things off by talking about Agents on a Leash, which was a great title, especially with everything we know about agents right now, and 2026 being the year of the agents. He's showing off how to take, I'm going to mess up words this entire time, and names, by the way, too. But he's showing how to take the probabilistic nature of LLMs and actually orchestrate them deterministically using BPM workflow engines like FluxNova. But then later on in the afternoon, Vincent Caldera and Valentina Rodriguez Sosa are going to be showing us how to actually evaluate those multi-agent systems, moving from ML ops to agent ops using LangGraph and the FINOS AI evaluation framework. And the thing you should know about some of the people there, Eric was actually a governing board member from Red Hat. And actually, I just saw He put in an application this past week to run for a new board seat that just opened up for gold members. And Eric is part of the FSI group at Red Hat. He knows this stuff, people. So, and the more his talk in New York about AI agents, and a lot of people there, a lot of people, I believe, were impressed as well. So, and then Vincent is I believe, the CTO of APAC for Red Hat. And Vincent's one of the members of our technical oversight committee as well. And so, you're getting, and Valentina, I don't know her well, but she did speak at New York. And again, her room was full as well. Um, but you're getting a really powerful packed punch into these two talks on AI. But AI isn't just about the models. It's about how it changes our human ecosystems. And so Abby Mays from GitHub is going to be talking about the synthetic senior. Let me make sure that I had that right. Yeah, and it's rethinking open source mentorship in the AI era. So think about this. AI is now generating pull requests that look incredibly polished and senior, but they arrive with zero context for the maintainer. So, how do you mentor contributors and maintain open source sustainability when AI is writing the code, right? If you run an OSPO or maintain a project, you cannot miss her 3Cs framework. And then, speaking of OSPOs, last week I did already talk about him, but Mark Paulson, who's the head of the OSPO over at TD Bank, he's going to flip the script and show us how AI can actually be used internally to automate and enhance risk management and compliance within your open source program office or your OSPO. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about MCP, but from a UI perspective. And Bob Myers from interop.io is going to be, asking this kind of brilliant question: is why does AI have to live in the chat window? And he's going to explore how AI can generate interactive UIs right on financial desktop using FTC3 and MCP, which is the Model Context Protocol. All right. That was probably about half the talks right now. There are 7 talks that are still being filled right now. But we're not just talking about AI. Actually, we're talking about hardcore infrastructure and data that runs the financial system. So we kind of transition from AI, and Preeti Gupta, who's a senior VP at Citi, is coming to talk about data enablement, and not just data access, but moving from access to actual outcomes using platform thinking and guardrails as code. I do remember when I got all the reviews from the reviewers for the talks for program committee, and I remember that this was one that all of them wanted to see on stage, just because of what she's talking about and how important it is to a lot of the things that the program committee was made up of different people from the technical oversight committee and other places within our community. And so, like, these people, they're helping me pick these talks so that it helps them in what they do on a daily basis. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about, will this help you within your work as well? Then we have Sadir, managing director of JP Morgan Chase. He's bringing us into the world of decentralized AI. He's going to unpack the project and this AI KYA. So IKEA, that sounds not right, but anyway, he's going to unpack that project, showing how federated learning can aggregate model weights across different institutions to detect complex payment anomalies without ever compromising data privacy or breaking zero trust rules. So that I did a lot of work on with a client a while ago on zero trust, and so I'm actually going to be going to do that one just to continue my learning that I had with my previous client. All right, and so for my infrastructure folks, you're going to want to have a front row seat for Eric. Oh man, I'm so bad with names. So Borgio? Sure. From RBC Capital Markets, Eric, you can yell at me and tell me how to say your name when I see you in a little while. But Eric from RBC and William Rizzo from Marantis. They're going to be tackling a massive enterprise problem: the thousands of physical servers that sit idle overnight. They built a spot scheduler to reclaim that idle bare metal into ephemeral Kubernetes clusters using confidential containers and open source DNS controller called Bindi. Is pure hands-on platform engineering. And actually, the client that I used to do work for before, they were trying to solve this problem as well. So again, I know you folks think that I just do marketing, but I've worked a lot in the open source world, and but this is uh, this is something that again continues my knowledge on anyway. It's just sorry. It's interesting to me because these are things that I had to try to help market this particular company that was working in this space, but B, try to figure out what problem they were solving. And so a talk like this, that's what I want to know. And, how do you solve that for people? How do you solve those idle servers and so that you're always paying for? Anyway, all right. So let's move on. We're going to hear from Maxime Cockerell from RBC and Eddie Knight from Sonotype on the FINOS Common Cloud Controls project, standardizing how we handle multi-cloud security so you aren't locked into one vendor's compliance model. One thing to note on that, both Maxime and Eddie are going to be doing a workshop, I believe. Yeah, it's going to be on Monday, April 13th. And we do have signups within you. It is a separate signup from the conference itself, but within the schedule for OSFF, there is a link to go sign up for that project. It's in this week at FINOS, if you sign up for that. And it's also on our website, which is finos.org, finos.org, within the events section. So check that out. Should be a great workshop. And George, my buddy from GitLab, and Michael from my buddy from Cosley, they're jumping in to talk about the open SDLC controls framework, because we all know that balancing the act, or there is a balancing act between letting developers move fast and keeping internal audits happy. George and Mike are also going to be doing a workshop, I believe on Monday as well, the 13th, on the open SDLC controls framework. So again, look out for that one as well. And then to round it all out, Borio, oh, Sicarello? Laborio. Okay, Laborio, Cicaro. By the way, I don't edit any of these. I don't know if you've noticed, and that's why you're hearing me ramble and mess up somebody's name in real time. But the good thing is, like, I do get to go meet all these people at the conference, apologize, learn how to say their names, and then make new friends. So maybe you can as well. Okay, so Laborio from Morgan Stanley is going to be showing us how to actually modernize at an enterprise scale. He's going to be talking about using Open Rewrite and Modern to execute deterministic, auditable refactoring. Let's start over. He's going to be talking about using Open Rewrite and Modern to execute deterministic, auditable refactoring across hundreds of repositories at once. So if you're dealing with technical debt at a massive scale, Laborio has a blueprint. All right, so that's track 2. It's Agentic AI, spot computing, is cloud controls, data enablement, and a masterclass in open source governance, all driven by the people who actually are building the tech inside the world's biggest banks. So if you want to be in the Giovanni room, which is where this track is, at the University of Toronto, you'll need to be in Toronto on April 14th. Head on over to finos.org, look for the OSFF Toronto banner, and grab your registration right now. Listen, because after what are we doing? This is 9 years of conferences, 10 years for the foundation itself, and this is one of 3 conferences that we're doing this year. Toronto's filling up fast. Again, brand new market for us, but we already have friends there. And like, I will say a couple things. First of all, I told you that our members get tickets for free. one thing to note is that some of our members have not taken advantage of their free tickets. So those tickets are up for sale. We originally were having the conference just for our members, and because that's all we had room for. But right now, it is open for everybody, and I can put a 20% code in here, but also it's this conference should sell for thousands of dollars, but we keep the price low on purpose in order to make sure that there is, accessibility for the people that really want to learn, especially if they can't get the clearance from their managers for their company to pay for it, even at a bank. We want to make sure that you can be there because the more that you learn, the better that our community does and grows. And so we want you there. So, anyway, if you have any questions, reach out to me either on LinkedIn or via email. And that information should also be in the show notes as well. So, I'm Grizz Griswold. I say a lot, and I'm going to be seeing you in about 6 weeks in Toronto. And for those of you that I don't see there, by the way, the call for papers is still available for London right now. London is June 25th at the QE2 Center. That's right by Big Ben, Parliament. I'm in Griswold. I'm allowed to say that. And if you know what that means, then you're about my age or older. All right. And then New York will be November 4th and 5th. We are working for some special things actually in London and New York right now. One in London will be an open source AI leadership summit. That'll be the day before OSFF. More information is coming out about that soon. And I can't tell you, but if you've gotten to the end of this podcast, then you might find out that we're working on a Flux NovaCon for New York right now. So I'd be interested to see if you got all the way through here. Please put something in the comments about I can't wait for Flux NovaCon. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna leave it there, and can't wait to see you at one of these conferences in person sometime soon. So with that, I'm gonna say good day, good night, wherever you are, and thank you.